Hi babyccinos, how are you? I hope you've had a really good week. Did you enjoy some of the sunshine yesterday? Maybe you've been playing outside in the garden and having fun with your family. I hope you're all really well. I know some of you have been very creative. Have a look at some of the artwork and crafts that our babyccinos have done over the last couple of weeks. There's still plenty of time for you to send in any pictures and videos that you've got of the crafts you've been doing at home. And look, if you planted some seeds, mine have started to grow. These were seeds that I took from a butternut squash that I'd had for my dinner, and I dried them out on the windowsill and I planted them. You saw me doing that, and look how beautifully they're growing now. So maybe later in the year I'll have some delicious butternut squash to eat. Yum. Today we're going to hear all about a special journey. It's a journey that takes us through a whole week called Holy Week, which started yesterday actually. And I'm going to take you through the whole journey of Holy Week with one craft that's got lots of little crafts in it. And I hope that by the time we finish that and we use that journey to tell a story, you'll know more about what is so exciting about Easter. And I don't just mean the chocolate eggs. So, if you're ready, here's some crafts for us to do together. When you're going on a journey, one of the things you might need is a passport. So we're going to make ourselves a Holy Week passport. So I've got a piece of card and a couple of pieces of paper, and you could just do it with paper. It doesn't really matter too much, but try and make it about the size of an A4 piece, because what we're going to put into this in a minute will be quite big. So try not to make it too tiny, but you can always adapt this craft, you know that. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold 2 sheets of paper. That's going to be the inside of our passport. I'm going to fold those so that they're nicely in half. I'm going to make sure that crease is quite sharp. And then I'm going to do the same with the piece of colourful card. So I'm just going to make sure that's a really neat crease. Make sure that is really strong crease too, so it holds its shape. And then in a minute what we're going to do is stick our pages inside. But before we do that, I am going to write some things on each of these pieces of paper. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've chosen a yellow pen to match my yellow outside card. And on the pieces of paper, I'm going to write the days of the week. But I'm going to start with Sunday and end with Sunday, and you'll see why later. So Sunday. And then on the inside of that sheet, I'll write Monday, Tuesday, I'm going to go through to Wednesday, Thursday, nearly there, Friday. You can see why you needed 2 sheets, because we've got to do 8 days. Saturday and Sunday. So those are the things I need on the pieces of paper for the inside of my passport, starting with Sunday and ending with Sunday. And then on the front I need to make it look like a passport, don't I? So I'm going to write passport at the top in my big black marker. And I'm going to write it in capitals just so I feel like it looks really official, as if I'm going on a lovely long journey somewhere. And because this is a special kind of passport, it's all about Holy Week and getting to Easter, I'm going to put a symbol on the front that reminds us of that. I'm going to put the symbol of the cross. I'm going to hear a bit more about the cross today. So that's going to be my design on the front. You could choose something different. You could leave this bit till last. And when we've finished all of the craft activities that we're doing, you could decide what sort of symbol you want to have on the front of your passport. But I've chosen a cross. You might choose something different. I can't wait to see the creative ideas that you'll have. So there is my passport It just needs its pages fixing now. So a little bit of handy glue stick, and what I'm going to do is glue right down the middle of my passport card and stick that first page in. And then I'll open up that page and glue down the middle of that one. And put the second page in. And now we can leave that one to dry for a while. So put your passport to one side. It should all be nicely inside your card now with 2 sheets of paper. There you can see my Wednesday and Thursday days right in the middle because I've glued both pieces of paper in. So I'm going to put that to one side whilst I do some other bits and pieces. The other thing you might need while you're travelling is some feet to walk on. So I would suggest that you might like to draw around your feet for this one, but my feet are a little bit big and I didn't think my little people would stay still long enough for this. So I have taken this very lovely shiny boot from my littlest one and I'm going to draw around that. And I'm going to draw around it 8 times. So I have chosen a few different colours of card, but again you could just do this on paper and colour them in. There's no right or wrong with this. So I'm going to start with some red paper, red card, and I'm going to draw around this boot. I'm going to draw around it a few times because do you remember you need 8, so I'm going to do a few different colours. Now you should be taking your socks off and drawing around your feet, I think. These feet we're going to stick into our passport, so try not to draw around a grown-up's foot because I do not think a grown-up's foot will fit into our passport very well. I've got 3 red feet, there we go. I'm going to do a couple of yellow feet. And I'm going to do a couple of orange feet. It doesn't really matter which colours you use or whether they're all on white pieces of paper because we're going to decorate each of these feet as we learn about the different days in Holy Week and what we might remember on each of those days. So there we go. I hope your toes aren't being too tickled as you draw around them, and I hope they look a little bit better than my little boot footprints. But there we go, I've got 8 footprints on different colours. You might have it all on the same colour, it doesn't really matter too much. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start by cutting a few of these out. Now, if this was Blue Peter or another sort of programme like that, there'd probably be a moment where the presenter might say, and here's one I made earlier. But we're not going to do that today. You're going to watch me do the whole of this craft because it just gives me longer to chat to you. So I'm going to cut these out and hopefully you can be doing the same. If you could tell me about what you're doing, couldn't you? You could send me an email while you're watching me do this, say, Becky, you didn't really need to cut all those out in front of us. We appreciate what you're doing, but really we're just watching you doing some cutting out. Or you could be thinking about which extra verses for our special song you might sing later today. Or you could be getting all the different craft supplies you might want together. One of the things I've got in my craft supply pile today that is a bit different to the paper and card we're using, I've got some kitchen foil. Now you don't need very much of it, but just a small amount because we're going to make some silver coins with that in a while. So if you wanted to get some kitchen foil out, you could. The other thing I'm going to use is just some marker pens. Probably going to use quite a lot of the scraps of this card and maybe some more plain paper as well. But you know, you could use absolutely anything that you've got going on, anything that's in your recycling bin that might fit the bill, that's nice and clean. Don't forget to make sure it's nice and washed. If you've got any scraps of fabric or felt lying around, you could use some of that to make this look really effective. I think that would be really good. You could use your pens, pencils. I've got my chalks ready today as well, because I always think the chalks look quite good on colourful card. So I might use some of those as well. I'm nearly done with cutting all of these out. 8 feet seem like quite a lot, don't they? But do you remember we had 8 pages in our passport? And what these feet will do is take us through Holy Week, reminding us of the journey through the week that Jesus had. And it's really important that we have the journey through Holy Week, because it explains why Easter is such a big party, such a big celebration. And sometimes what happens is we forget to have Holy Week. We kind of get a bit excited the Sunday before Easter. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's what happened yesterday. And then we get very excited on Easter Sunday. Not least because there's chocolate as well, isn't there, by that point, which is pretty exciting. But Easter Sunday is the biggest celebration in the year for Christians. And it's quite easy to get to that celebration without having worked out exactly why we're doing it. So I think it's really important, using our passport and our feet, and lots of other ways I think you can think of at home, that we try to think about the whole story of Holy Week and understand how we get to Easter. So here we go, I'm nearly finished with cutting my feet out. So I've got 8 feet in different colours, and I've got some scraps of card which I think will come in really useful for what we're going to do next. So I still think it's easiest if you use a pencil to mark out some of the shapes I'm going to suggest next. So what we're going to do is we're going to decorate each of our feet with some shapes that tell us about the different days of Holy Week. So the first one we're going to do is actually yesterday. Yesterday was Palm Sunday. So I'm going to take some green card. I'm going to just put my footprint next to it so I know what sort of size I'm working with. And I'm going to draw out a palm leaf. Now, Palm Sunday, I wonder if you know much about that. Palm Sunday, we remember when Jesus came into the city of Jerusalem. And we call it Palm Sunday because we read in the Bible that as he rode into the city on a donkey, people took palm branches and leaves and they scattered them on the path in front of Jesus so that his donkey would have a smooth journey. They also took their jackets and coats off and they laid them on the path. So it was a beautiful path for the donkey to walk on. And when the crowd saw Jesus coming in, when they were putting their branches and coats on the floor, they were shouting a word that sounds a bit funny to us. Hosanna, they shouted. Praise God. They recognised that Jesus was somebody really special and they were really, really excited to see him. And that's what we remember on Palm Sunday. And we remember who Jesus is to us. We remember that we're so excited that Jesus is the Son of God. And we remember all the good things that happened in his time on earth. But it's also a time of looking forward to what's coming next, which is not all happy at first. So I've got my palm leaf here, a little palm leaf. And I'm going to glue that onto my foot that I've got here. Well, the footprint, not my foot, that would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? So I'm going to glue that onto the footprint, and that will be the first of the days. So there you go. Day 1 complete. That's a Palm Sunday footprint. There we go. You might have a palm cross or something like that at home. If you did, you might want to trim it and stick a palm cross on instead. But there's my Palm Sunday footprint. I'm going to put that to one side. The next footprint I'm going to do, I'm going to choose orange for that one. You can choose what colour you want. It could just be white. It doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do is draw a bird on a piece of paper. And this one needs to be a white bird for me because it's going to be a dove. Now, you all know how terrible my drawing is, but we'll give it a go, shall we? So I'm going to do a nice big wing up here, and the head of the dove, and the tail, which comes round here. Might put a little extra wing in there. And a little beak. And some little legs. Just like that. Now, why on earth am I drawing a bird on this piece of paper? Well, I'm drawing a bird on this piece of paper because on the Monday in Holy Week, we remember that Jesus went into the temple. Now, temple is a bit like church, I suppose. It's the place where people go to worship God. And Jesus had noticed that actually people weren't really being invited there just to worship God. People were being sold things in a way that meant that they were cheated out of money. So on the Monday in Holy Week, we remember that Jesus went into the temple and he turned over the tables where people were cheating others out of money. And one of the ways they would do that is they would sell birds and other animals that were used in worship, and they would sell them at very, very, very expensive prices. So it meant that worshipping God wasn't available to everybody. It wasn't free for everybody as it should be. But instead, people were being cheated. I've got some little feet on my bird as well, so I'm going to just draw those back on with a pen, I think, because I don't want to cut them out and accidentally cut them off. So I've got my bird to remind me that on Monday we remember Jesus going into the temple. I'm just going to do the outline of my bird as well, where he was so cross that the people leading the temple had made it so that people who were coming in to worship God couldn't do it freely. They had to pay, and Jesus was really cross about that. He said, "This is the place where people come to worship my Father God. This shouldn't be a place where they're cheated." I'm going to leave the little beak and do that in yellow. So that's my little bird. You could think of something else that you could put in there, but I quite like my little dove. So there's my little dove. And this is going to be day 2, isn't it? So I'm going to get that glue stick again. Trusty glue stick. I wonder if parents and grown-ups, you're all worried that you're going to run out of glue and craft supplies this few months. I have to say the thought has occurred to me. So we might have to be getting very creative soon. So I'm going to stick this bird onto my footprint, whichever way it fits. It doesn't really matter too much, as long as it does fit. I'm worried that I've done what I said not to do, make it too big. Here we go. There's my little bird on my footprint. And there's day 2. That's Holy Monday, where we remember that Jesus went into the temple, cross that the people there weren't allowing people to worship God freely. Instead, they were charging them money for things. Now, on Tuesday, interestingly, Jesus went back to the temple. But when Jesus went back to the temple on Tuesday, he did some teaching there. He didn't turn the tables over this time. Instead, what he did was he went to teach. And one of the things that Jesus taught about best was how to love other people. So I'm going to do a big heart on here. I'm going to cut that out of red card and stick it onto the foot. And then I think what I might do is decorate it with some other hearts. I know for a fact that you out there are going to have some really good ideas about how to do this that will be so much better than my ideas. I cannot wait to see the pictures that you will send. So I'll glue this on, and then I'm going to get a pen and then add some extra hearts, I think. So there's one heart. What do you think? A red pen and some extra hearts. So this reminds us that Jesus went into the temple, this time not to get angry, but to teach people. And I'm going to put at the bottom of this, choose a different pen. I'm going to choose purple. I don't know how it'll come out on the yellow card. I'm going to put love each other. And there is Holy Tuesday. So we're getting through them now. We've done 3 footprints. We've got 5 left to go. Now, I wonder if you managed to get your kitchen foil. I've got a little bit here. And to make it easier, I'm going to fold it a few times, just like this. I'm going to cut it into a few little sort of square shapes like that. And then what I'm going to do is cut some coin shapes out. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know with me it never will be, but it'll be good enough. We'll see what it is. It's a bit tricky to separate it out again afterwards, so just be really careful. And children, maybe ask a grown-up to help with this, because you need sharp scissors, but also sometimes the edges of the foil can be quite sharp, so you just need to be really careful. I'm going to separate these coins out a little bit. Now, if you haven't got any silver foil at home, don't worry, because you can draw coins and colour them in, can't you? I'm just going to do one more bit like that. Actually, I folded quite a lot of foil, and I'm discovering I probably don't need quite as many as I've done. So you can make your coins all different sizes, can't you? You could be really creative with this one, I reckon. And I'm just going to put my scissors down for a second. I'm going to separate out all of these coins, and then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put the glue straight onto the foot. Now, the reason that we've got coins for this one is that on the Holy Wednesday we remember that Jesus's friend Judas, he'd got quite angry with Jesus, and he decided that he would tell people who wanted to hurt Jesus where Jesus was. So he went to them and he said, "What's it worth to you if I tell you where Jesus is?" And they said, "We'll give you 30 silver coins." So on Wednesday we put coins on our foot to remind us that Jesus' good friend sold him to people who wanted to hurt him. We say he was betrayed by Judas. And that is the 30 silver coins that Judas got when he sold the information about where Jesus was. So it looks really shiny and pretty, but actually we're starting to get to some of the really sad bits of Holy Week. As much as it's shiny and beautiful, we remember that this is a symbol of Jesus's friend betraying him, which is really sad. But there we go, we're 4 footprints down now. So next I'm going to do, I've got a green footprint this time, and we're going to talk about Thursday, which in the Christian calendar we call Maundy Thursday, which is a strange sort of word. But this is a day on which we remember that Jesus spent time with his friends. Now, one of the things they did together was they shared a meal, and while they shared a meal they had bread. So this is my little loaf of bread, a little yellow one, and they shared wine. I'm just going to draw out a cup on some red card rather than making a cup and showing that there's wine inside it, but again I am certain that you could do that really well. I'm going to do a cup like this, a little wine glass type shape. Now, some of you will know that in church we share bread and wine, and we might call it communion, mass, the Eucharist, the Lord's Supper, and that we get from this Maundy Thursday, because Jesus shared bread and wine with his friends as they ate a meal, and he said, the bread is like my body, I'm breaking it for you, which was him saying about what was coming next. And then he said, the wine is like my blood, which I will pour out for you. Again, giving the disciples a clue as to what was coming next. So again, I'm just going to put some glue on the foot here. There's my bread and my wine. But there's another amazing bit of the Maundy Thursday story, which is before Jesus and his friends sat down to dinner, he knelt at their feet and he washed their feet. Now, that might not sound that gross to you, but the roads back then were really dusty and mucky. There was no real toilets. There was nowhere for the animals that were going up and down to do their business. Streets were really, really dirty, and people didn't have nice welly boots. They had sandals. Dusty, dirty feet were everywhere. And when Jesus' friends arrived for the meal, he said, "I want to wash your feet," which was a job that usually only servants would do. And this was Jesus' way of saying, yes, I might be God, but I'm a different kind of person to who you think God might be. I'm God who wants to wash your feet. I want to serve you. I want to show that I love you by washing your dirty, stinky, smelly feet. And Jesus did. He knelt on the floor and he washed his friend's feet. So I've put some water at the bottom of this foot to show us that Jesus washed his friend's feet before they ate a meal and shared bread and wine. There we go. We're doing well now. We're on 5 feet, I reckon. So it's time for another one. This time I'm going to do mine on orange. Now we've got to Friday. Well, we call it Good Friday, which seems strange because it's the day when we remember that Jesus was killed. He was killed on a cross. He was made to carry his cross up a big hill. And there they stuck him onto the cross on top of the hill. They tortured him beforehand. They were mean to him. They spat at him. They got rid of his clothes and gave them to other people. And they made him die on the cross. They made him die alone, cold, scared, on a cross that looks like this, with a hand nailed to each of these bits and feet nailed down. Now, Jesus went to the cross, he died, to make things right with God that we had made wrong. Because everything that we do that might be selfish or hurts other people, all of that creates a gap between us and God. Jesus went to the cross to make that right again, to say there never needs to be a gap again, because he went to the cross out of love for us. But Good Friday is a very strange term for that, because it doesn't feel good. It feels very, very sad, I think. Perhaps you think so too. So Jesus died on the cross, and his friends took his body down from the cross and laid it in a tomb, which brings me on to our next foot. Because Holy Saturday, I'm going to draw straight onto this foot again. It seems to me that Friday and Saturday ought to be quite simple footprints, but you can change how you feel about that. I think they ought to be quite simple because they're sad days. On Saturday, Jesus has died. He's in the tomb, and this is the tomb that I'm going to draw on here now. And on Saturday, it was a day of rest, so usually his friends would want to come to the tomb. They would want to come and pay their respects to their friend. They would want to use spices and things to take care of the body. But they couldn't, they had to stay away, which was really hard for them and really sad. So on Saturday, Jesus remains in the tomb. His body is dead and he's in there. The stone is rolled in front, a huge stone, and his friends can't be with him, they're at home. That is footprint number 7. So you know where we're going. We've got footprint number 8 coming up, because this one is Easter Sunday. Now, I've already told you, this is the biggest celebration in the Christian year. So let's find out why, shall we? Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the tomb out a little bit again. I'm going to start with the top bit. And on top of that, I'm going to do something a little bit odd. I'm going to get some strips of yellow card, and I'm going to make them short enough so they'll fit all around, but I'm going to make them look like a sun is rising behind the tomb. So I'm going to get my trusty glue stick. Be amazed if this glue stick lasts for the rest of the craft. I'm going to glue all around it just like that. I'm going to stick on my rays of sunshine like this. Now, why on earth am I doing that? Isn't Jesus dead? Isn't this quite sad? Well, no. It's the biggest celebration of the year, because when Jesus' friends come to the tomb on Easter Sunday morning, they didn't know it was Easter Sunday then, we know now, they find that the stone has been rolled away. And they go inside the tomb and they find an angel sitting there, not Jesus's body, and they say, "Where's Jesus gone?" And the angel says, "You are looking for him in the wrong place. He's not here. Jesus is alive." God brought Jesus back from death as a great gift to us, so that we might know, even in our darkest times, that there is nothing God cannot do. God defeated death because Jesus is so precious. He went to the cross absolutely without having done anything wrong. He went for us, and God said, "I will bring him back to show that you no longer have to fear the things you've done wrong. You no longer have to fear death. I'm much bigger and stronger than that." Jesus is alive. And that is why Easter Sunday is the biggest celebration in the Christian year. Now, the only thing we have left to do now is to stick our footprints into our passport. Can you remember which is which? Why don't we start with footprint number 8 and work back? So here we go. Jesus is alive. That's Easter Sunday. We'll start there, which is a bit like beginning at the end of a book. We're going to start there because we're not there yet. That's where we're going. Jesus is alive on Easter Sunday. Here's the footprint with the tomb on. That's Holy Saturday. And we remember that that's the day when Jesus' friends, much as they wanted to go and look after his body, they had to stay at home. Here's Good Friday, when we remember that Jesus was put to death on the cross to make things right with God that had gone wrong because of the bad things that we have done and that humans have done through all of our time on earth. Here's Thursday, when we remember that Jesus washed his friends' feet and then sat and ate with them and shared bread and wine, symbols of his body and blood that still now we share in church at Mass or Eucharist or the Lord's Supper. On Wednesday, we remember those silver coins that Judas got for betraying Jesus. So even though they're shiny and beautiful, they remind us of something really sad. Tuesday, that's when Jesus was teaching in the temple, do you remember? Saying, you need to learn how to love one another. That's what Jesus came to do, teach us how to love one another as God wants us to. He'd been in the temple the day before as well, hadn't he? Here's my little dove footprint. I'm going to stick that in as a reminder that Jesus went into the temple on the Monday and told the leaders there that they were wrong to make people pay money to worship God. And Sunday, that was yesterday, Palm Sunday, when the people welcomed Jesus into the city by laying palm branches and leaves and even their own coats on the ground to make the way smooth for Jesus' donkey. So here is the Holy Week passport, which takes us through each of the days of Holy Week on this incredible journey that leads us to the cross and then to the empty tomb where Jesus has risen again. I hope you enjoy making it. Send me lots of pictures when you have. Well, babyccinos, I feel like we've had our story as we've done the craft, haven't we, this week? So I hope you've enjoyed that. But I thought I would read to you an Easter story anyway. So if you're sitting comfortably, here's the story for this week. It was a long, dark night. Jesus was in trouble. Some people said he was the king of the Jews. King Herod didn't like it. While Jesus prayed, Peter, James and John sat under the trees keeping watch, but one by one they fell asleep. Before sunrise, Jesus saw another disciple coming. It was Judas, with a crowd, carrying torches and swords. Jesus woke the disciples. "Hello, Master," said Jesus, and kissed Jesus on the cheek. Said Judas, and kissed Jesus on the cheek. Now the priests knew which man was Jesus. Jesus was arrested. Peter swung his sword, but Jesus told him not to fight. Peter, James and John ran away. Jesus was taken to the chief priest. Peter had followed and was listening from a safe distance, but someone spotted him. "You were with Jesus," they said. "I wasn't," said Peter. "I don't know him." 3 times Peter said he didn't know Jesus, just as Jesus had said he would. Then the cock crowed, and Peter cried because he hadn't stood up for Jesus. The priests took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked him. Jesus said nothing. Pilate asked the crowd, "What has he done? He's hurt no one." But the crowd was angry. "Who shall I let go?" asked Pilate. "Barabbas the murderer, or Jesus, king of the Jews?" "Let Barabbas go," they cried. Pilate was amazed, but he let Barabbas go. The crowd made fun of Jesus as he was taken to a hill called Calvary. They put a crown of thorns on his head. Jesus was nailed to a wooden cross between 2 thieves. "You are the Son of God," said the mean thief. "Why don't you save yourself?" At midday, the sky went dark. The darkness lasted for 3 hours. "God, forgive them," Jesus cried. "They don't know what they're doing." At the same moment, the earth rumbled and Jesus died. A Roman soldier was standing guard. "He really was the Son of God," he said. That evening, a man called Joseph took Jesus' body down to a stone tomb. He washed Jesus and dressed him in clean clothes. Then he rolled a heavy stone over the opening of the tomb. Soldiers came to guard the tomb. All this time, Jesus' friends, Mary Magdalene and Mary from Galilee, were watching. 2 days later, Mary Magdalene and Mary from Galilee came back to the tomb. The soldiers had gone, the stone was rolled away, and the tomb was empty. A shining angel said, "Don't be afraid, Jesus is alive." They ran quickly to tell the disciples, but on the way they met Jesus. "Don't be afraid," said Jesus. "I will meet the disciples in Galilee." The disciples went to Galilee and waited. While they were talking, Jesus suddenly appeared. They were frightened. "Why are you afraid?" asked Jesus. "It is me." He showed them the marks on his hands and feet from the cross. "Go and tell the world what I have taught you. Tell them they should be sorry for what they have done wrong. If other people do bad things, we should forgive them." Jesus led his disciples to a place near Bethany. He lifted up his hands and blessed them. Jesus left them and was taken up into heaven. The disciples went out into the world. They spread God's message, just as Jesus had told them. What an amazing story. I think it's the best story in the world. And I hope that when you're enjoying having fun with your family and hopefully eating lots of chocolate, I hope you can remember the real reason that we celebrate Easter, that God gave Jesus, brought Jesus back to life and gave us the greatest gift, knowing that we can have all the wrong things that we have done forgiven, and knowing that Jesus being alive means we don't have to fear death. Shall we sing our special song now? We're going to sing He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, and I'm going to sing one verse, but guess what? I've got somebody to sing it with me. So here we go. Are you ready? He's got the whole world in his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. I know that you can think of lots more verses, and I'm not going to tell you which ones to sing this week. I'm going to let you choose how many verses you can sing today. Just keep on singing them and send me videos of you doing it. And I can't wait to see what you've been up to when you're doing your crafts at home. Have a really good Holy Week. I hope that you can really enjoy thinking about the sad bits of the story too, so that you can learn more about why it's so happy when we get to Easter Sunday. And have a really, 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 really happy Easter. And I'll see you the other side. Bye, babyccinos.